And instead of the two-state solution stupidity, we have to go and say one state, and we should struggle with, and everyone should help us in this case, because we are in a situation, already we are in one state, but with two laws. That's an apartheid.
Welcome everyone to this podcast, and if you're watching it on YouTube, I would request you to please like and subscribe to our channel. My name is Dr. Shubhda Chaudhary and this is Middle East Insights platform, and today we are going to talk about something that is going on the period of waiting for almost 31 years. Tomorrow, 13th of September 1993, marks 31 years of Oslo Process, a process that didn't bring peace. So to that, we are very privileged to have the vociferous, indomitable, honest, and truthful voice of Professor Saad Nimer joining us from West Bank, Palestine right now. Professor Saad Nimer has been very not only, filled with empathy for his students, for the scholars, teaching them about West Bank, for other foreigners who come and study at Birzeit University, telling them about the history, the culture, the sociology of the entire context. But he has also been a light in the times of humongous darkness, where the world doesn't know who to look up to and how to look up to. So with this, Professor Saad Nimer, I would like to welcome you officially to our podcast today. And the floor is all yours now.
Thank you, and thank you for this nice introduction also. Yes, good afternoon for everyone. I don't know what's the time now there in India, but here it's 5:35. Yes, and as Dr. Shubhda just talked about Oslo Agreement, which today or nowadays, it's around 31 years of this Oslo Agreement, and we just lived it, minute by minute, from that time till today. And I think it's one of the worst episodes that we have in our history in Palestine, and the relationship between Palestine and what's called Israel. So let's talk about what happened from the very beginning and why we have all these problems in Oslo Agreement. First of all, we have to say that after 1967 and the occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem in 1967 by the Israeli forces, the occupation, it took us something like 20 years from 1967 till 1987, when the Palestinians started to realize that's it. We have to do something about it. We can't live anymore under the occupation. And I believe that it's not normal for any people under occupation not to resist this occupation. Okay, so not to talk about, all the horrible horrors of the occupation, to control everything in your life. Everything, I mean, literally everything in your life. So the Palestinians fed up with this occupation and they wanted to get rid of the occupation. Hence, the first Intifada started. The first Intifada was a popular Intifada with all the Palestinians were participating in it. In everywhere in Palestine, all the villages, all the refugee camps, cities, everywhere. And the only aim was, we don't want the occupation. During the Intifada leadership was formed, and then there were more than 9 other committees created to help the Palestinians during the Intifada to manage their life, especially that we started to boycott the Israeli occupation who had control over everything, as we say. So we have to have alternative health, treatment, and we have to have also alternative education, because they close all the universities and all the schools. And we have to find also home economy things and lots of things, and these committees, in order to manage and to try to at least manage our life to continue, because the Intifada lasted for 7 years. The Israeli tried all the ways in the book to stop the Intifada. They couldn't. By force, by the very famous policy of Rabin to break the bones, by killing, by demolishing the houses, deportation, whatever punishment you can imagine, it was there. And yet they didn't stop the Intifada. So by the end of the day, the worst issue of the Intifada was in Gaza, because Gaza, as you know now, it's very dense populated. It's a very tiny area, 365 kilometers, and we are talking about 2.2 million who are living there. At that time, it was 1.5 million. But still, it is very dense and very the tendency of the population is very high. And also forests, because there is no land like in the West Bank, at least. So the Intifada was very, very violent in Gaza. And the Israeli, anyway, they are not that much interested in Gaza. So they wanted to get rid of it. As, Rabin, he said that to Mubarak in Egypt at that time. I don't want Gaza, take it. And he offered it to Mubarak, as a matter of fact, to annex it to Egypt. And Mubarak said, no, I can't do that. However, from here, it started the idea that, okay, I know maybe someone who might take it, meaning Yasser Arafat at that time. So Rabin said, well, let him ask for it. So that was, if you like, the background, under table, if you like, why the Oslo came. Israel was in a very bad shape. Occupation became very costly in comparison to the period before the Intifada. Before the Intifada, they used to collect the taxes. We have 250,000 Palestinians working in Israel at a very cheap prices and paying taxes to Israel. We are the second largest market for the Israeli product. During the Intifada, we boycotted the Israeli product. Workers stopped going there, and we stopped paying taxes. So, and the Israeli have to not to double, to triple, and even more the expenses of military services, because they have to be now in every village and in every refugee camp on a daily basis, to reoccupy the West Bank. As one of the officers said, we occupied the West Bank in 1967 and Gaza and East Jerusalem once, 1967. Today, during the Intifada, we have to reoccupy it every day. So that was very costly for the occupation, and there is no revenues coming from the West Bank. And since we boycotted also the Israeli products, it became really, now we have to get rid of them. They became now costly for us, and especially Gaza. So the offer was, let's do the talking about Gaza. So they met, the PLO and Israeli officers in Oslo. As a matter of fact, it's a village near to Oslo. It's very a little bit far, and nobody will notice anyone there. So they met there, and they started to talk about the PLO insisted on not only to take Gaza, and they said, we won't take Gaza. We want anything with it in the West Bank. And they said, well, what do you mean by anything? Yasser Arafat said, okay, 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers in the West Bank, and they start laughing. Okay, that means Jericho. It's a very small city in Palestine. It's in the Jordan Valley. And Jericho, too. He said, well, I'll accept Jericho. So Jericho with Gaza. So that was the first thing about the Oslo Agreement and how it started the negotiations. All right. So the first agreement was, as it was called, the Declaration of Principles. And that was, as I mentioned, Gaza-Jericho Agreement. That was announced on the 30th of September 1993 and signed later on. However, this declaration, it was only the beginning, just to inform both publics here and there about this kind of agreement. But the real Oslo Agreement, that's why we call this one Oslo I. Oslo I. And then the details came in Oslo. So Oslo I, which was signed in 1995. Oslo I, it contained, or this one, the Declaration of Principles. These main principles, there are other articles, 17 articles altogether, but these are the most important ones. Israel government recognized the PLO as the legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. In return, the PLO recognized the right of the state of Israel to exist. This is important. PLO renounced terrorism as well as other violence and its desire for the destruction of Israel's state. 5 years leading to a permanent settlement based on UN Security Council resolutions 242 and 338. And the last one, the agreement provides for a limited Palestinian self-rule in the West Bank and Gaza Strip within 5 years. And then after 5 years, we're supposed to have been discussing, because the Israeli asked for these 5 years because they said we want to build the trust. And during these 5 years, we will discuss the 5 issues considered the main issues which were left to the end. Settlements, Jerusalem, borders and security, water, and the refugees, Palestinian refugees. So these 5 final issues were left to be discussed during these 5 years. And after 5 years, in 1999, it's supposed to be a Palestinian state, as we understand. But look here at these articles. We, PLO, recognize the right state of Israel to exist. So we voluntarily said that we agreed that Israel have the right to exist on 78% of our Palestine. And we will accept what is left, which is West Bank and Gaza, 22%, to establish our state on it. In return, Israel didn't recognize the right of the Palestinian of a state. Okay? They recognized the PLO as legitimate representative of the Palestinians. So what? This is not committed, they are not committed to something solid for the Palestinians. They just recognize the PLO. So this is one of the problems of Oslo I, at least. So the second agreement, or Oslo II, if you like, interim agreement, which came out in 300 pages, contained 5 chapters, 31 articles, plus 7 annexes, and 9 attached maps, and all the details. And that was supposed to be the detailed one, and it was signed in September 1995. This is why we said it's only the first one signed 1994, 5 years, and 1999 we supposed to have a Palestinian state. That's how things supposed to be. But in reality, it was different. The chapter 1, the Palestinian Council, that the Palestinians should have a legislative council elected, which is supposedly to make laws and to create a government and all these kind of things. So the elections would be for president of the Palestinian Authority, which they agreed in the first one to have created the Palestinian Authority. They allowed the PLO to bring back some of their personnel from outside and also security forces from outside, and to prepare for the elections for the Legislative Council. The number of the seats at that time was 86 seats or 88 seats, and creating a Palestinian Authority to run the areas which are supposed to be where the Israeli redeploying their security forces, and it will be given to the Palestinians, especially a little bit parts in Gaza and a little part in the West Bank. The second chapter, it's about the redeployment and security arrangement. And this chapter is, really a rich chapter, because they are talking about phases where the Israeli forces will leave the areas for the Palestinians, and the Palestinians will take over these areas. And at the same time, they will arrange the security arrangements between both of them. Some areas, it will be run by both of them security. Some areas it will be totally for the Palestinians. Some areas it will be totally under the Israeli occupation. So, and they talk about the cooperation, security cooperation that we still suffer from till today. There was nothing left of Oslo except the cooperation, this security cooperation. Then there is a chapter about the legal affairs, who we should refer to if there is a problems, and especially legal affairs. It means that what if a Palestinian commit a crime in Israel? Israeli have the right to try him. What if an Israeli commit a crime in the Palestinian authorities area? Palestinian can't arrest him, can't try him, and they have to notify the Israeli side only. So we don't have that. We can't, even our police, they can't give a ticket, a traffic ticket to an Israeli citizen. Not even a ticket. We can't. So they put some arrangements. And every time we, and do remember that, every time we protested against, these articles in Oslo Agreement, they will tell us, don't worry, it's only for 5 years. And after that, we'll have our states. 5 years, 5 years. Cooperation. The cooperation also included the economic cooperation. Now, since 1967, after the Israeli occupation to the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, they annexed our economy, totally controlled our economy, and we became in a situation of a periphery and core. So the Israeli core is the economic Israeli core, and we are in the periphery. We can't export or import but through them. We can't buy but from them, and all these kind of things, and they control our economy. They control also the electricity, the water, and all these kind of things, which means that a total control over the West Bank. So now, if we are going in this Oslo Agreement to create a situation for the Palestinian alone, we have to know how to manage and to tackle all these problems. And hence, economically, Paris Agreement came. And this was one of the worst agreements in the history of anywhere. Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement is to prepare the relationship, or to arrange the relationship between the Palestinian and the Israeli economic-wise, allowing the Palestinians to import directly. But since we are not controlling any of our borders, so even if we are going to import or export directly to European countries or anywhere else, still we have to do that through Israeli companies, because they are controlling the borders. We don't control any of our borders. And by the way, we have one border anyway, which is the borders between us and Jordan. And it's controlled by the Israelis anyway. But through the sea, though we have the sea in Gaza, but we don't have ports. So through the sea, or through the air, or through the land, through Jordan, we have to do that through Israeli companies and through Israeli arrangements, because we don't control the borders anyway. So this is one issue. The other issue in Paris Agreement, because of the idea of the VAT, the value added tax, the 17%, which usually the buyer will pay this 17%, and usually the authority or the state will collect the 17 later on. And Israeli suggested that because our borders are not very tight and there might be trafficking, so there might be some Palestinian traders could bring goods from Israel without paying 17%. So we suggest that anything goes to the West Bank, Gaza, or East Jerusalem, already will add the value added tax, the VAT. And we collect the money for you, okay? You bring us the invoice later on, and then we will pay you the 17% that we collected from you. And for doing that, we'll charge you 3%. Okay, now what happened? Today, as we speak, and yesterday it was the time they're supposed to hand us our monthly payments. This monthly payment is around $240 million every month. Smotrich, who's the finance minister, he decided not to give the Palestinian any money. It's not an Israeli money. This is our money. They collect it for us, and they charge us 3% for doing that. It's our money. We pay it up front when we buy anything coming from outside or from Israel. Even if we are importing anything from India, we already pay to the Israelis on the port these 17% up front. And he decided that we don't want to give you the money because you are paying some of your officials and some of your employees who are living in Gaza. So we deduct all that. We don't want to give you 40 million because you pay for the prisoners' families. Who's going to pay for their families? Or the murderers' families. Okay, if someone died and his family now with no breadwinner, what could he do? This family. So the Palestinian Authority usually they pay. Well, it's not a big amount of money. It's a small sum, but still, we deduct that. And because I don't know what, we deduct this. So what we need now, since the 7th of October, okay, till today, we are talking about $1.5 billion Israeli deducted from our money. That's what we need. This is our money. It's not something that the Israelis are giving us. This is our money. We already pay it. This is because of Paris Agreement in Oslo. Okay. So you can imagine then, what kind of agreement this Paris Agreement was. And then there are also chapters about the miscellaneous provisions in order of problems happening, lots of other things, related to the relationship. In the legal affairs also, the Israeli have the right, which is in security also, they have the right of what they call it a hot pursuit. So they could, if they are following a Palestinian who did something and he reached the Palestinian authorities area, the Israeli have the right to come into the Palestinian area and arrest him from their point. We don't have that right in return. So you can see that it was designed in a way to suit the Israeli needs and the Israeli, if you like, arrangements, but definitely not the Palestinians. And always they will tell us that it is only for 5 years, and after 5 years everything will be fine, and we'll be having our own state, and so on and so on. However, under Oslo Agreement, when we said that the redeployment of the Israeli troops, there was divisions of the area. What you can see now in front of you, the West Bank and Gaza, and you can see Gaza is separated from the West Bank. So in the West Bank, because there are settlements, so they agreed that we will divide the area into 3 zones. Zone A, Area B, Area C. Area A is supposed to be under the total jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority. Security, orders, people, everything is under the Palestinian Authority. Area B Palestinian will be controlling the population, the people. So the administration, if you like, but security is in the hands of the Israelis. Area C, it's still totally under the Israeli control in everything, administratively and security. So the idea was, we will give you Area A, mainly the major cities, then we'll start moving from Area C to B and from B to A in over the 5 years, till we get something like 96% of the West Bank in pulses. Each pulse, like, we are giving you this time 20% from C, we convert it to B, and 20% of B, we convert it to A, and so on. And once it is A, it means under the total control of the Palestinians. That's supposed to be the idea. And you can see the area here, which is a yellow area. These areas were totally annexed by Israel, regardless of the agreement. East Jerusalem and some villages here were destroyed, because this is the road leading to Tel Aviv, linking Tel Aviv with Jerusalem. So this is East Jerusalem, and here is West Jerusalem, which was occupied 1948, and this one occupied in 1967. So this is about area. This is about the area. Now, the Israeli, they planned the area perfectly. They know exactly what they are talking about. And you can see from the very beginning, their intention was never to give the Palestinian a state. Never. Why? Look at this diagram, okay, or this table. Zone A, which is 18% of the West Bank only, the population of it is 36% of the total population of the West Bank. Area B, which on Palestinian controlling only the people, but not the land or security. The area is 21% of the West Bank, consists of 60% of the population of the West Bank living in this area, mainly the villages, the rural area. Look at Area C now. Area C, which is under the total jurisdiction of the Israeli occupation, under occupation, it's around 60%, a little bit over, and only 4% living there. Now, what Smotrich is doing, and Ben Gvir in this government, fascist government today in Israel, they want to get rid of these 4% because they want to annex Area C totally. Okay, so 25 Palestinian communities already were kicked out from Area C. They drove them, literally drove them by force. Israeli army and the settlers, they pushed them out of these areas in order to, take the land over, especially in two major areas. One of them is Jordan Valley, the most valuable land for the Palestinians, because Jordan Valley is 33% of the total area of West Bank, but it is the food basket. Very fertile land, very rich with water, and it is on the borders with Jordan. So from the Israeli point of view, we will never give you Jordan Valley. So now they wanted to push the Palestinians from Jordan Valley out of the area and to control the area from the north to the south of Jordan Valley. So already we are talking about 25 communities. There are more than 30,000 Palestinians, what means they were kicked out from their living area to go wherever you want, and preferably go to Jordan. We don't want you here. And they were pushed by force. So this is in Jordan area, Jordan Valley. And the other area is what we call it Masafer Yatta, which is near Hebron, the biggest city in the West Bank, Hebron in the south of Palestine, Al-Khalil, where is the Ibrahimi Mosque there. We are talking about 12 villages in this area called Masafer Yatta, near the city of Yatta. Uh, these 12 villages were threatened totally of the total destruction of these villages, and all the population there should move themselves somewhere else because the settlers want this area, and this area, there are many settlements in that area, and they want to push the Palestinian out of this land to take over the land and to enlarge the settlements and create new settlements as well there. Already, when we are talking about settlements, we are talking about more than 800 settlers, 800,000 settlers. They are living in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The plan by 2025 or 2030 to make them 1 million settlements under international law is absolutely illegal, because you are settling in an occupied territories. And according to Geneva Convention, the occupier could not move his population or part of his population to live in the occupied territories. This is against the international law. It's exactly the same situation like in North Cyprus and South Cyprus. They use the same argument also. However, what happened that they want to push 12 villages are now under the threat to be demolished. The orders is already given. The order to demolish these villages already given. It's now when they are going to execute. And usually they wait for something, to happen, or if the people around the world are not noticing what's going on, and they execute this kind of thing. A few years ago, we have the same situation with a village called Khan al-Ahmar. It's between Jericho and Jerusalem. And there was an international intervention, and we have lots of people, volunteers, and who are coming, to support the village, and they stayed in the village, and we were there, and we went from Ramallah and from all the Palestinian cities, and we went there to stay with them in this village in order not to demolish it, because there was an order to demolish it, and they brought the bulldozers, a whole village. They want to just, demolish it because they want to enlarge some settlements and to connect them with each other. As that's what they think of. So Area C is the worst area. The problem is Area C is the largest part. We're talking about 60% of the West Bank is Area C. So if they want to annex this Area C, it means we will be left only with 40% of the West Bank. Our resources are there, our water are there, land there, private land even, and lots of problems. According to the World Bank report, he said if the Palestinians have the access to Area C to use it, okay, they will make $4.2 billion every year additionally. So we are losing already 4.2 billion dollars because we have no access to our land or to invest in Area C. And if you build in Area C, immediately there will be a demolishing of your house. This morning, there was 3 houses were demolished, one in Al-Walaja, one in Hebron, near Hebron, and another one in Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, in Silwan. And always they said, this is, you built a house without permission. And they don't give us permissions. When you ask for permissions, they don't give you permission. And out of need, so you build, because on your own land, and then they will come and demolish it. Not only demolish it, and they will make you pay for the expenses of the demolition, which is usually around 100,000 shekels. That is, let me say, around $30,000. And they make the Palestinian pay for demolishing his own house. It's unbelievable. And every day we have orders of demolitions and demolitions. Do you know that in Jerusalem alone, only in Jerusalem and its area, 22,000 houses have served orders to demolition for demolishing their houses. 22,000 houses. Already there is an order to demolish it. When they are going to do it, they are doing it, like few here and few there. Every day or two, they will demolish 2-3 houses, 2-3 houses, and so on. Now, after the 7th of October, the demolishing orders started to become, more and more. This morning, this report from Hebron, the guy who had his house demolished, they came without warning, without anything, and they didn't even give him time to take his stuff from the house. They demolished the house even over his furniture. They didn't allow him, give me 1 hour, at least to take whatever I can take from the house. No, that's it. We will demolish now and we want to go. So they demolished the house this morning, today. So you can imagine. So they don't give us permission to build. And at the same time, if you build, because where can we go? You need to, the population growing, and there is no areas built. So you need to build a house. We know that it's from their point of view is without permits, but it's out of the need. And we build it on our own land. If I have a land and I build a house on it, or even in the agricultural areas, even barracks or an agricultural room, or even in one of the cases they have to collect water, small pool to collect the water for agriculture. All that will be demolished because they call that, so we don't have the ability to invest in these 60% or to build in these 60% or do anything. And because of the wall that they created also after 2002, started 2003, almost, lots of our private land became behind the wall. Well, your land is behind the wall. A huge wall. We are not talking about, a small wall. I'm talking about, 8 meters to 12 meters high. So it's like 3 stories or 4 stories. And there is a gate, and they will tell you, okay, we'll give you a permit to enter your land, okay? But, it's only we open at 7 o'clock in the morning, then we close the gate, and then we open it again at 5. We open to get out, and then we close the gate. Okay, what if a snake bites someone, and he wants to get to, to the hospital? No, now the gate is closed. Okay, the permit sometimes they don't give you in order to leave your land and just, don't care about it. So the settlers would come and take it. And, it's the biggest harassment in this area called C in the West Bank. So this is Oslo Agreement giving us this ABC zone, and it's still going on till today. The Palestinian Authority controls only 18%, which is mainly the main cities, the parameters of the main city. So I'm now in Area A. I can do whatever I want because it's under the Palestinian Authority. But once I go out of the perimeter of Ramallah, I'm in Area B or C. And in such case, they can arrest me. They can, say, okay, there's a roadblock, go back. You are not allowed to come here. They can do whatever they want. This is what now is going on. Now they are trying to control Area B to consider it exactly like Area C. And this is because of Smotrich again, because this time not as a financial finance minister, but also he had another position in the Israeli army. The areas controlled by the Israeli army in the occupied territories, it's under his control. So this is his second occupation, apart from being the finance minister. So now he's responsible for Area C totally. And now he declared that also Area B is under his control. Since security-wise, it's under the Israeli control, So he now wanted the administrative issue. So in Area B, if you want to build a house, you ask the Palestinian Authority. You have the permit from there, and usually Palestinian Authority immediately they will give you a permit. Now the Israeli wanted to control the Area B and not to allow Palestinians to build in it and to demolish houses in Area B, which they have permits. But now they wanted to control it as well. So they will leave us only with 18% Area A. And still, even in Area A, after 2002, the second Intifada, they reoccupied all the West Bank, including Area A. And they occupied us even in Ramallah, and they imposed a curfew and they started arresting people. And today, security-wise, they can enter anywhere without any kind of cooperation with the Palestinian Authority. They can come in the middle of Ramallah and arrest anyone. So we are all under occupation. So this area A, B, and C, it was in Oslo, but in reality, it's the Israeli security. And many, many times when I have late classes in the evening like this, and then the Israeli army will be in our street here, and the young guys start to throw stones at them, and they start shooting tear gas and shooting, bullets, and immediately in my street, under my house. So it happens because now they can go anywhere. How they are going to Jenin and to Tulkarem and to Bas, which is supposed to be Area A, and Jenin, 10 days they've been there doing all these, destructions in Jenin city as well as in the refugee camp. The same with Tulkarem, the two refugee camps, Nur Shams and Tulkarem, and the city of Tulkarem. The same with Tubas, the city of Tubas, as well as the refugee camp near to it called the Farah. This morning they were in the Farah, and this morning they managed to bury someone who went up to his roof to see what's going on. And he was shot by a sniper. He's 46 years old, and he had 5 children. And he was shot just only because he went up to his own roof. He was shot. That was this morning. So this is the some of the about the Oslo Agreement. Now, Yitzhak Rabin, he's from the Labour Party, and he was the one who signed the agreement. I think maybe, I don't know to what extent, genuinely, maybe he was interested in this process. He said the prosperity of Israel is by integrating Israel into the Middle East. And if that will cost us a Palestinian state, let it be. Because, Israel as a part of the Middle East, because if they solve the Palestinian question, it means that have the normal relationship with all Arab countries. Can you imagine the Israeli ambition with the Saudi money? That was the idea, Saudis, Qataris, and all Gulf states, rich with oil and rich with money, and the Israeli have the know-how and so they will make, good business in the area. So that was the idea for Rabin. Now, 1995, he was assassinated by a right-wing Israeli group, and the right-wing guy, he assassinated him in 1995, claiming these right-wing organizations and parties, especially Likud party, the one now Netanyahu is leading, that you are giving the Israeli land to the Palestinians. It's our land. You are occupying it. And they claim that all this land should be for Israel, and you are giving the Palestinian our land. Okay. Look what else happened. Benjamin Netanyahu, in response to Rabin's statement, he said, who would lead the Middle East? Our investments in South America is more important in his line, in this one. Only Israel, with a strong army, could impose the peace that we want. Is that a peace? To impose a peace that you want by force, by Israeli army? So can you now understand the mentality? That was 1995-96. Can you now imagine the mentality of Netanyahu today and what he's doing now? Because that's his understanding of what's going on. No, no peace with the Palestinians, no state for the Palestinians. Only the Israeli army could impose the peace that we want. 2017, Smotrich, his ally in the government, because Smotrich represents a small party, Itamar Ben-Gvir represents another small party, and then Netanyahu represents the biggest one, the Likud party. But all of them are not only to the right wing, they are fascist. Smotrich, we've mentioned him many times because he's an important part of the government today in the coalition. And he said 2017 during the elections that when they asked him what about the West Bank and Gaza and the East Jerusalem, and he said, well, the Palestinians have three options, and they have to choose from them. One option they are allowed to choose: either they will stay and be our slaves, or they should leave the country to go to Jordan or to go to any other Arab country, or to be killed. And as a Palestinian, you have to choose one of those options. To accept to be a slave. If you don't want to accept to be a slave, okay, get out of the country and leave it to them. If you don't want to leave it to them, then it means you are defining us. So you will be killed. And these are the three options Smotrich have it. And today he's talking about it. Again, Foreign Minister Israel Katz, just a few days, he was announcing that, we should move the population from the refugee camps in Jenin and in Tulkarem and get them out to do exactly what we are doing now in Gaza, to treat the Palestinians in the West Bank exactly the same like what's going on in Gaza. Well, in Gaza, it's a genocide. Now he wants to repeat that again in the West Bank. So this is the idea of this government, if you like. Okay. Now, Hebron, after the assassination of Rabin, 1995, Netanyahu became a prime minister. And once he became a prime minister, he wanted to renegotiate each and every article in Oslo Agreement because he didn't agree to Oslo Agreement in totally. And he don't want to give the Palestinian anything. So in 1997, that was the division of the biggest city in Palestine, which is Hebron. And they divided into H1 and H2. Why H1 and H2? Because this is Hebron, and this part is the old city of Hebron, the Kasaba, the old city, where the Ibrahimi Mosque, which is the most important mosque, it's supposedly to be built by Abraham himself, and his sons, and graves of his sons is there. And it was always a mosque for the Muslims. Now, the Israeli, since Abraham is the common prophet between us and them, and that's why they called us, and we call them cousins, because we came from the same prophet, Abraham. They divided the mosque into two parts, one part for the Jews and one part for and that's what they wanted to do in Al-Aqsa Mosque today also. However, after they occupied Hebron in 1967, they created a small settlement inside the old city of Hebron. Then it started to enlarge because they are taking over Palestinian houses. So now we have 5 small settlements in the old city here of Hebron. 5 settlements. The number of settlers do not exceed 400 settlers. 400. They are protected by more than 2,000 soldiers. So each settler will enjoy at least 5 soldiers, to protect him. Nevertheless, that these settlers are also armed. Now, in this area, some streets we are not allowed even to walk in. Only Jews or Israelis. Some streets we are not allowed to drive in. We are allowed only to walk on our feet, but not, to drive. The Israeli have the right. And so other areas we are allowed to go in, but there are more than 30 roadblocks inside the old city of Hebron, to make the Palestinian community there divided, so they can, control it. Since we are talking about five settlements inside this small area. So now in the 1997, the agreement was that we make H1, H2, like A and B areas. So H1, it's under the total jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority, H2 under the Israeli security forces. We can go there, but now you are under the Israeli jurisdiction. So they can arrest you, they can search you, they can stop you, they can demolish your house, whatever, once you are in that area. You are allowed to live there, but under their control, in every sense. It's a big problem. And we are talking about the biggest city in the West Bank. We are talking about more than 250,000 Palestinians are living in the city with 400 settlers, making the life of the whole city miserable, with 400 settlers. However, for us, the Oslo Agreement was signed in 1993, here. 7 years, of 1993 till 2000, 7 years. Before that, we have 26 years, from 1967 till 1993. The number of settlements created during the peace period, 1993 till 2000, 3 times the number of all settlements built in 26 years. So is that a state that have intention to give us a Palestinian state? But I'm agreeing that I'm going to give you this area to why you are still building settlements in it. I'm going to give you this piece of land, but I'm continuing to build settlements in it. Eventually you will take it, but I'm still 3 times in 7 years, 3 times the number of settlements in comparison to 26 years before. That give us the indication that Israeli are not interested in the peace process, nor in giving us really our rights in Oslo Agreement. Not only that, the Palestinian can't be fooled in this. We discovered that Oslo Agreement was signed, and later on the process that the Israeli wanted to legalize the occupation. Because now when we go to the international community or to the United Nations, they talk, look what the Israeli are doing. They'll say, now you are in peace. Go and talk to each other. Negotiate things. Now you are in peace. Negotiate with each other. Negotiate whom? Negotiate what? The whole period of Oslo Agreement and all the details and all the negotiations that happened, it was the situation of superior-inferior situation. All the time. We are people under occupation. We can't afford to say no. We can't say no because we are under control of a military force, forcing us to accept this and to accept that. That's why, from the perspective of the international law, any agreement for people under occupation is a void. Can't be, considered because it's, you did under occupation, so it's not even can be legal. So this is the situation. We discovered that Oslo Agreement is just for the Israeli to legalize the occupation, okay? Because they continue with controlling our borders. They continue to confiscate our land. continue to build settlements, continue to kill Palestinians, continue to arrest Palestinians, continue to demolish the houses, okay? Continue to harass us in everything, in everywhere. So what's the difference? Where is the fruit of peace you promised us? We did peace. We recognize Israel on 78% of our own lands. We accepted that. And what's in return we get? Nothing. Totally nothing. A Palestinian Authority controlling all the cities, and not totally controlling these cities, because our president, Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, now he's in Ramallah. Can he go to visit Nablus, which is 40 kilometers from Ramallah, another city, Nablus? He needs an Israeli permit. So what kind of authority you are talking about? Or a state we are talking about? We are totally under the occupation. Okay. 2005, Sharon decided to leave Gaza, totally to leave Gaza, in a plan called it the disengagement with the Palestinians in Gaza. No one wanted Gaza. No one wanted Gaza. He was a prime minister at that time, and he took the decision to evacuate Gaza and to get the Israeli army out. And there was a few settlements to get them out also from Gaza. And he said, well, Gaza, go to hell. Well, they continue to surround Gaza, to control Gaza from the sea and from the border. Anyway, so the last 18 years, for 18 years, Gaza was under siege. Look at the map. Here's Gaza, surrounded by Israel, and here's the sea, also controlled by Israel. You know that according to Oslo Agreement, the Palestinian fishermen, they have the right to go into our own land, our water, and to fish. The Israeli will prevent them of going deep into the water, and they give them only 3 miles. 3 miles? What kind of fishing is this for 3 miles? So they won't allow them to go. According to Oslo Agreement, they are allowed at least 5 and even a little bit more, because after that it's international water. So the Israeli have no jurisdiction. So that's why they confined us to 3 miles. And from this side, which is the south, it's Egypt. And even when we have Rafah crossing here, somewhere, Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt, the Israeli also control it. Control it by, when the agreement happened, they said, okay, we will have European troops, if not an Israeli troops, at least European troops to be on the crossings, and they will, look at everything with cameras and everything, and Israel will be notified. When they agreed to have an airport during Yasser Arafat in Rafah, in this area, to have an airport, the first international airport, it was funny. It was funny because the airplane could come to Rafah airport, then the passenger will be put in a bus, taken to the Israeli side, to be approved and documented and visa stamped. Then they will return to the airport, and then now you are welcome to Palestine. So they have to go to the Israeli point. Anyone entering Gaza should be under the control of the Israeli. Exactly like anyone entering the West Bank from Jordan under their, or us going out through the bridge to Jordan. Also, we will have to be checked by the Israeli also troops. So this idea